One of the big challenges as women get into menopause is understanding what is fact, what is fiction, what kinds of things should they be doing or shouldn't they be doing when it comes to fitness and nutrition as they're going through some various hormonal changes and life cycle changes. And so today we're going to dive deep into this topic of what are the things that women, as they get into their 40s and 50s, what should they really be doing? What shouldn't they be doing? What are some of the common mistakes and myths out there that really can serve to create worse results when it comes to our fitness and nutrition and our end goal of optimized health? That's what we're going to go into today. It's going to be an awesome episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome. I have Chryssie in the house, yeah. Dr. Annie.
What's up?
This is a great topic because it's something that, Annie, you've shared on other podcasts that's the stage of life you're in. That's what you're going through. So a lot of today's discussion, in part, is driven by some of your personal experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so interesting. I had this conversation with my mom last night because menopause is shockingly poorly understood and managed across the medical community. And I'm well educated, surrounded by amazing coaches, providers, and I'm still going into it not fully comprehending where I should be, what I should be doing. And I'm learning like on a fast track as I'm going through these stages myself, which makes it extra fun. And everyone can know I experiment. Everyone knows I experiment on myself first and see how I feel, see how I'm responding. And
then you take it from there.
And then I take it from there. Yeah. So it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah. And Chryssie, you train a lot of women who fall into this category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like my major demographic, and it makes me really excited to work with them because the last thing I want to see is women lost in this stage of life, because it is a time where so many things are changing. They're very vulnerable, and I want to give them their power back, show them that there are things that we can do. We can't totally avoid these things that they're going to experience, but we can alleviate some of these symptoms, lessen them, and make them feel more empowered through this season of life that they're going through.
Yeah, I love it. It seems to me that for a long time, menopause was almost like a dirty word, like a bad word, or something a person was ashamed of, like an affliction they caught. Mm-hmm. Oh God, I got the menopause. You know?
I got the menopause. Yeah. I think that's really accurate.
Yes.
Actually, you're in menopause, so therefore all these things are going to happen to you, and you're going to lose your memory, and you're going to gain weight, and all these things are going to happen to you. So it was just this downhill slide. Mm-hmm. But now it's, you know what, fire it up, women in menopause, because we're changing the game, mm-hmm. right? And we're changing the game through education. So I think starting today is like looking at some of the really, really common myths around the stage in life about how we should be managing our lifestyle factors. So our diet and our exercise. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the interesting things that I wanted to start with is the topic of intermittent fasting. Yeah. And this is not a bad thing. Intermittent fasting is not a bad thing, but it's touted as something that menopausal women should be doing to lose weight. And really, this is not accurate. So, especially intermittent fasting layered with exercise, which can really backfire because women are more sensitive to energy restriction than men, right? We're not little men. Mm-hmm. We are women. So we have very different bodies and different needs. Interestingly, this is a new thing that I learned is about a neuropeptide called kisspeptin. And it's actually responsible for sex hormones and endocrine and reproductive function. And this is disrupted by intermittent fasting. This causes appetite dysregulation and can induce a change in the circadian rhythm of our hormones and actually increase menopausal symptoms. So this is a big deal because, including myself, I thought, that's it. I'm in menopause. I should start intermittent fasting, right? So I think, Chryssie, you can speak to this as well in your work with women.
Yeah. Intermittent fasting, I feel like, was the craze starting like last year before. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone wanted to do it and try it. And really, there's not a ton of scientific evidence that proves that it's the benefits of it. What I do believe, though, and what I do speak to my clients about is the circadian rhythm intermittent fasting. So I do believe that we should be fasting for 12 hours and feeding for 12 hours because that's how our ancestors fed and fasted. They ate when the sun was up, they fasted when the sun was down. But in the life that we live in now, we have food readily accessible whenever we want it, at all hours of the day and all hours of the night. So we're finding that now we are feeding more than we're fasting, which is a metabolic disruptor. And what is frustrating is some women, they do this intermittent fasting, fast for 14, feed for 10, or fast for 16, feed for 8. And initially they do experience weight loss, but it's not the fasting that is making them experience the weight loss. It's the lack of eating that is warranting that weight loss. And over time, they find a plateau or some stagnation. And once we start feeding them, they start losing again. They start gaining muscle. They start losing fat. So it seems like the right idea initially, but then when they reach a plateau, they're not seeing results, or they realize that they're putting more stress on their body than what is necessary. It's time to change it up and realize that that's not the way. It's not beneficial.
Yeah, digestive rest is really what you're saying, so important, because if you're snacking right up till you go to bed, that's not helpful.
No, you haven't given your opportunity, or you haven't given your metabolism an opportunity to truly rest and digest. So it's constantly breaking something down, stressing over something, and you're never in that state of rest.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's interesting with intermittent fasting, I do think there's some cellular benefit. There might be some longevity, there's some good research, I think, around longevity and around cellular research, around autophagy. Yeah, so a little bit of a cellular reset can aid in detoxification, can help your body essentially cleanse some broken cell tissue out and all that. But I think when you use it as a primary weight loss strategy, or fundamentally as your nutrition approach as a woman, you have to be very careful because of the things that you just brought up, Annie. And even without knowing the science on it, I could say from the times when I had worked with women in this range, really in almost any woman, like all female clients that I worked with, really none of them did that well on intermittent fasting. And you get into it from a hormone disruption standpoint, that really makes sense.
Yeah, especially layering it with exercise.
Yeah, and bringing it back to the cellular benefits of fasting. Science has proven that like autophagy, that takes place from resistance training. So you don't have to do intermittent fasting to get that benefit. Let's do some resistance training and gain some muscle while we're at it.
I like it.
Yeah.
So speaking of training.
Yeah.
Well, Annie, too, before you jump into training, I think one of the things that we should bring up or maybe get into, and I think we were going to talk about this anyways, was that oftentimes women who are taking intermittent fasting approach will then also combo that with a low carb approach. So I see this go hand in hand all the time, especially on Instagram, influencers. There's a ton of fitness influencers in this space who preach that to women: low carb, low to no carb, ultra low carb, like sub 20 carbs a day, intermittent fasting.
Ouch.
Yeah. So let's talk about a double punch to the gut.
Yeah. And talk about your energy. So your energy availability without carbohydrates, you're not going to be able to make it through your day, let alone a good workout.
Yeah, you want to get a workout in, but you go to start it and you're like, I have nothing in the tank, because we use carbs as energy. So yeah, it's a double whammy to the system, and it's not going to warrant positive results. That's for sure.
And low carb is going to reduce your thyroid levels, which is going to affect your bone density, which we're fighting for as we are in the menopausal years. And also it's going to increase your menopausal symptoms. So eating enough carbohydrates to sustain yourself is vital.
Yeah, and I think that we're still in this era of debunking the fact that carbs are bad, because we just came from a low carb era where everyone was on a low carb diet. And so we're still trying to retrain the body and retrain the mind that carbs aren't what's going to make you fat. Carbs are what we need for energy. Consuming excessive amounts of processed carbs and not moving, yeah, that's going to make you gain weight. But we do need carbs for energy. Carbs are good. We want them.
Yeah. And women, I think, I wouldn't just say women, I think across the board, we think low carb is the better way to go, especially when we're looking at losing weight. So
yeah, carbs equals fat loss or weight gain, unwanted weight gain. That is 100%. It's so funny when I go back and see my family on the East Coast, and I've been eating carbs like for, I don't know, 10 years or something. But there was like a 5 or 6 year period where I was ultra low carb paleo. I was like hardcore OG paleo.
Yeah.
And I was like a carb Nazi. If somebody was eating bread, I'd smack it out of their hand.
That's amazing.
I went to a birthday party and I actually poured water all over the bread that was at the table. Like, I cannot believe I even have any friends left.
Wow.
How do I have any friends left? I don't know. But
You thought you were saving their lives.
I thought I was saving their lives.
Yeah.
I legit, I was like, wake up. And I like poured the water over the bread. And I saved you from taking poison.
That's incredible.
Did you still drink wine though, Barry?
Yeah. But yeah, I'd never stop drinking wine.
Yes.
I never. I
could
never
say something
categorized
right
that
now
as a
that I'll
processed
resist.
carb.
Yeah. No,
It's
that's not a
alcohol.
carb.
For your heart health.
That's in another category of food. But the point is yeah, and they still think, oh, you don't eat any carbs. No, it's like, I've been eating carbs for so long. We have to get over this idea that carbs are bad. But I think in our collective conscious, it's still connected to carbs are bad. And I still think there's a lingering sense of fat is bad.
Yeah.
So I just think there's people have all this weird, convoluted, messed up ideas about food.
We've been taught it. Look at keto, look at paleo, all the carb restricted, this is where, especially in my age, I've lived through the low fat era
yeah.
and the low fat, high sugar is how it actually equated out to be. And then the no carb area and the cottage cheese equals cellulite era and all those things that are just like, you should just drink celery juice. And I mean, there's all sorts of myths, grapefruit diet. And I mean, it's endless. It's no wonder people are confused. It's like, we have to go back to the basics. And I think when we think about carbs though, don't stuff your face with bread. Pour water on the bread. I'm just kidding. Good quality. Let's do fruits. Let's do veggies. Let's do some whole
Minimally
grains.
processed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's do healthy carbs. Just
For
to
most of the
clarify.
time.
Yeah.
Occasional slice of bread is not gonna derail you.
No, it's not.
So I think that the other thing is you don't be afraid of processed carbs, but you have to look at what is the bulk of your food intake made of. Is it made of real, mostly unprocessed foods with high nutrient density, or is it fake artificial foods?
Yeah, lots of different colors in your fruit and veggies. It's really actually simple, right? I think we make it really hard, but it isn't. It's really a whole food diet is what you need to be on.
Totally. And wouldn't you say, because you teed us up, we were about to get into talk about training, menopause and training for women, but I feel like this nutrition thing, you need to have this base to understand that there's so many benefits for resistance training that you're going to get into, Chryssie, and you're going to get into Annie, and bring to light of why specifically women who are in menopause should be doing resistance training. But if that nutritional piece isn't there, if you are intermittent fasting or you are going low carb, you're going to find that resistance training to be much, much, much harder than it should be. And the motivation will be very low because you're just going to feel like this is the hardest thing I've ever done. This feels terrible.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really feel terrible. What you're feeling is the feeling of being totally underfueled.
100%. Yeah. Got to be fueled. You have to have energy. Otherwise, you just can't train. You can't function.
So when it comes to training, again, I think that's another area. There's probably a lot of misconceptions, misunderstanding. Should I be doing high intensity interval style training, HIIT training? Should I be, for weight loss or body composition, weights and bulk? We've talked about this a lot, but I think we got to keep talking about it. Lifting weight's good for me? Is it bad for me? Will that cause me to look like a bodybuilder or get all bulky, all this kind of stuff? So let's get into some of the myths around training that we really want to debunk.
Yeah. Did you have something you wanted to start with there?
Oh, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's considered to be zone 2 training.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think menopausal women are led towards or encouraged to do this sort of zone 2 low intensity training because they are afraid to get their cortisol levels up.
Right.
And this is really a myth. Zone 2 training is great for recovery. As you said, Chryssie, that's your 10,000 steps a day, right? That's your daily movement. But it's not going to get you to where you want to be with your strength, with increasing your bone density, with changing your visceral fat. All of these things need to happen with true resistance training.
Yeah. And I think what's really attracting women specifically to zone 2 training is they're calling it fat burning training because it's 60% RPE. It's something that you can do for a longer duration of time. So ideally, you're utilizing fat for fuel in that regard. However, if you're not doing it consistently, or if you're not doing it in combination with resistance training and fueling properly, it's really not, you're not reaping the benefits of it. So yes, I do think that zone 2 is an essential part of your life. It should be like your 10,000 steps or playing flag football or something that you can do, moving your body consistently for somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour. But in addition to that, you do need to be doing resistance training and you do need to be fueling your body.
You think about the time, like time is such of essence for all of us. And I think women especially, and women actually recover better than men. So we don't need to spend endless hours with this low intensity training, right? It's not the best platform for us, and we don't need to spend an hour and a half. Or I remember that I lived through that era too.
Yeah.
The zone training, the heart rate training zone and all that stuff is just not applicable. And it's such a time suck.
Yeah.
Go for your walk.
Yeah.
That's your zone 2.
Move your body. Yeah.
And then resistance train.
Yeah. What do you think about just the benefits apart from, say, weight loss or body composition? It seems that there's benefit there, an argument maybe to be made around kind of low intensity, steady state, your long, slow, steady jog, or your long bike from like a cardiovascular health standpoint. I think that's something to consider, or if that's the type of sport that you like, obviously.
Yeah.
That's great. But it seems to me what you guys are saying is you have to look at this more critically and make sure that style training, again, unless you're just like an endurance runner or something, that's not the bulk of your training time.
Totally.
I think the fear is the cortisol, right? I think a lot of menopausal women are hearing the myth of cortisol makes you fat. It gives you that midsection fat. And so the guidance has been around keeping your training out of increasing cortisol levels.
Yeah. So they're promoting low intensity, hence the reason.
Exactly.
Zone 2.
Exactly. And that's where that comes together. But there's different types of cortisol. Like we have the chronic stress, and then we have the stress and cortisol production for a high intensity exercise, which is really healthful and important. So it's a misconception around that.
What do you think about high intensity kind of interval style training for women in terms of where does that come into play in terms of building a structured program for someone?
I think it's a fraction of their training. I think that it's important to be put in there 10% of the time, but it's not something they're doing on a daily basis. I think that it's essential to incorporate to challenge the body. But if we're going to do it every single training session, we're not going to reap any benefits. I'm going to break that woman down and she's not going to return for the following week. That's where I stand.
So you'd sprinkle in a little bit of high intensity training, you'd sprinkle in a little bit of some steady state stuff here and there, but then the bulk of the training time you would have be around resistance training.
Absolutely. Yeah. Resistance training, functional bodybuilding, little aerobic capacity work. Yeah. Just the perfect combination of it all.
I love it.
Yeah. When you think about, so one of the kind of myths that you're deconstructing here with exercise and hormones is connected to this broader maybe narrative that when a woman is going through menopause, part of the challenges that she's experiencing and some of the negative things she wants to avoid, person might want to avoid, is hormone related, right? It's like all these hormones are going out of control or they're changing, and it's this sense of maybe I need to be on bioidentical hormones, maybe need to do all that. And certainly we'd say, yeah, work with your naturopath, work with somebody who gets hormone therapy and balancing hormones and get testing and get that stuff figured out, because that's unique. But really also when you're looking at the things that you can totally control, you guys are moving the narrative away from this idea that your hormones are in control and putting it back to, no, you are in control. You can do so much to impact your situation if you understand some basic levers around your food, your nutrition, and your activity.
But then our partners are there, the resources are there should we need to refer you out to a naturopath or some sort of more specialized person in that realm that could speak to hormones or some other sort of help.
But But as you said, Barry, not messing with your hormones just through taking advice that isn't right for your body, like intermittent fasting, right? Which is good for some people, but not everyone. Like everything, we just can't put one protocol on every person because we're all different, right?
Or feeling like maybe you've gained some weight, or you've been having a hard time losing weight, and you're thinking that my cortisol is completely and that's controlling me. And we might say that might be a factor, but there's these other factors that you should probably look at. So if you were, say, like in the Build with Chryssie program, we would look at the food factors and you would look at the nutrition factors to say, hey, from a lifestyle and from an activity standpoint, let's go after this, because I bet there's some things we can do to actually create some pretty significant change.
Yeah. And let's also look at your sleep. Let's also look at what does your day look like? What does your workload look like? Like, in what other areas can we help control stressful situations so that they're not elevating your cortisol?
And really recognizing that, as you said, like looking after those things, the chronic stressors, that's where it's harder. That's the hardest to control, I think, for anybody, is that chronic daily stressor of the things we deal with in our lives. But the pitch and cortisol we get with high intensity exercise, with resistance training, that's good for us.
Yeah. But bringing it back to your question earlier, Barry, when you asked me about like how much high intensity is involved in their training, if I have a woman that is chronically stressed, we are not doing high intensity training. She's not going to benefit from it, and she's not going to get that high intensity dose. So we're going to stay away from that for a little bit until we can maintain her stress levels, get it to a more healthier level. And then when I feel like she needs a little extra stress, a little extra challenge, then we'll incorporate it in there.
Some of the most difficult cases I've seen have been in women who are ultra endurance athletes. They're incredibly hardwired, high stress, and then they're doing these endurance racing and endurance running events, and it just that combination is difficult, right? Because they're in a really different situation. But it's everyone, again, it's individuality, right? Sustainability of exercise and lifestyle, but every person is different. So, and certainly, as you said, like hormone replacement therapy, bioidenticals, like I'm a huge fan of HRT as long as it's safe for your particular situation. And then that's where we work with our naturopathic partners at Sage Integrative. What a great clinic for assessing that need.
So what else do we have on our list that we want to break down?
That's what I wanted to talk about today.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
This is good. It's really good information. It's a good perspective shift. And again, I think we started off the episode with this idea of, hey, really our mission is to empower people with knowledge and help put them on a plan to take action with that knowledge and implement that knowledge, right? Because knowledge without action, knowledge without implementation, it's really not that beneficial. Like,
it's just knowledge. It's just staying in there.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything unless you use it. And so that's where having a partner who can help guide you, walk that path out with you, be there side by side with you it's so key. That's why we're such big fans of coaching. It's why we have so many of the programs that we have here. And that's why if this is something that is interesting to you and you're like raising your hand, you're like, this is me, oh my gosh, I want to learn more, I want more help here, then come in and chat with us. We have the Build with Chryssie program that's really specifically, this is one of the core avatars. This is one of the core people that you're really designed to help the most.
Yeah. It's the avatar that I'm most passionate about, for sure. And just to put a plug with the Build with Chryssie, we decided that we are going to offer a 30-minute complimentary meet and greet. So if you're on the fence, you're not like ready to buy or ready to commit, come into the clinic. Let's sit down. Let me get to know you. Let's see what your goals are, what you've done in the past. Let me give you a tour of the space and a little rundown with what a session could or would look like. And then from there, let's set up a consultation. Let me see how your body moves. And then let's chat about what our membership options are.
Yeah, and I think that for many women, that there's a lot of intimidation factors with the idea of going to the gym, or there's just this idea of, I don't know if I want to be in that environment, or they have a gym membership they don't really use because it's a bunch of bro sessions in there, or like a bunch of teenagers lifting weights. I go to Harbor Square. The last time I was a member at Harbor Square, I lasted like a month.
And that's you.
I couldn't take it. I just couldn't take it. It was just too insane. There were like just bro teenagers, these teenage kids everywhere.
Yeah.
I couldn't, it snapped my mind. So I was like, I can't do this. And so if that's you, and if that kind of environment isn't your environment and you want more one-on-one and you want a plan, you want a person who can assess you and coach you and build a structured situation for you, then absolutely, I think that one-on-one consultation is a great place to start.
Yeah, and I don't even feel like we can call it a gym. Like, this is a training floor. It doesn't have that same gym
it's totally
feel.
different.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. So this is perfect for somebody who's that's really not my scene, but I really want help and I really want to be on a structured program, which FYI is essential. Then this is something you should
Definitely.
check out.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm getting huge benefit from it. So
I love it. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for sharing, and we will catch you on the next episode.